Plan B.
And the BIA pod is back, bringing that energy after a 14-7 victory over the Texas Longhorns.
Who?
Texas Toast. Man, oh my gosh. It was a great week one if you are a Buckeye. It was a defensive game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think pretty clearly. Not a lot of O, but honestly, both defenses look like top 5 defenses in the country. We'll see once the year keeps going, but it looked like that from that first game.
Yeah, but we want to give some takeaways starting off here on the pod. Speaking of defenses, I feel like I remember at the beginning of, or I'm sorry, in the off season, a lot of people talking about all of the production that Ohio State lost, and that we would potentially take a step back. Don't think that happened. I don't think that happened. Now, we did face a quarterback who, has only had, I believe Arch Manning has only had 2 starts. He has played in big games though. He has gotten uh some plays in
Got
big
knocked
games.
out. Got knocked out in a big one.
Yes, playoffs. Shout out to the playoff run. But it's interesting to see how all of a sudden now Matt Patricia is getting all of this praise for being a great defensive mind, and the fact that Ohio State could potentially have the best defense in the country. Now, still remains to be seen. I think that it was definitely a week one game where both teams know that there are improvements to be made, especially when you look at the box score of Ohio State. Total yards, passing yards, and rushing yards. But the main thing, I think to take away, my takeaway was that we beat Texas on fourth down conversions. We didn't go for it as much on fourth down, but we also beat them on the third down conversions as well. And so I think that that was a recipe for victory. And taking a shot on that play action pass from Julian Sayin to Carnell Tate it was a recipe for a victory. So yeah, what are your takeaways from the game?
Um, yeah, definitely the just the defense as a unit. Certainly that secondary, BIA, that's our name of our podcast, Best in America, for the secondary at Ohio State. And those DBs looked amazing, man. I mean, he looked great. He played every snap. You know that. He played every snap. So did Matthews. Both of them looked amazing. Obviously, Caleb Downs was like as advertised everywhere on the field. So it's just really happy to see that unit lead. As you mentioned, a lot of talk was about Ohio State losing so many starters, and especially on the defensive line. But I think you see like what happens. A lot of times you have a defensive line kind of lead the defense, and it kind of helps support secondaries that might be a little bit weak. We've had that in the past. We've had like some corners that might be a little shaky. No shade to those who moved on, but this unit is clearly showing us that secondary, a lot of it's like cover. We're going to have a lot of coverage sacks, right? So people are going to be locked up, and that D line is eventually going to get to the quarterback. And I think we saw that in that first game. So I'm excited about that. And then obviously, for me, the biggest question mark was and still is Julian Sayin. But I don't think there's anything you can see in that game that would make you feel uneasy about him being a starting quarterback. I don't think there's anything he showed in that game that could make you say, "Oh, I don't know about this." Now, did he set the world on fire? No, but I don't understand how. And there's some people saying that. Maybe we'll get that in the national reaction, but I don't see how you can watch that performance and not say, "Okay, this guy, he's the right guy. He's got to get better," but you can see the potential.
He did not turn the ball over, and I believe most of his incompletions came from drops.
A lot of those.
Yeah, and so I think that that means, and it wasn't like it was not a ball that could not be caught. It was definitely a catchable ball. It was actually surprising that some of them. Now I give Max Clare, heading over to the sideline. That was going to be a tough catch. Ryan
I'm
Day.
not giving him that. I'm not giving
Well,
him that.
I'm just going to say Ryan Day said that in this press conference, not post game press conference, but Tuesday press conference. He said that might have been thrown a little bit late. But to the point of to your point, we all want to see that be a catchable ball with Max Clear possibly being the best tight end in the country. So yeah,
He gonna have to earn that. I'll say this: Max Clare gonna have to earn that. We were giving that praise out, and I'm not saying he can't. That's one game, but one I don't know if you saw. He didn't play the most snaps for a tight end for us. Like he was third in snaps at tight end for us. I don't know why. I don't know if that was he was shook from the early drop, or if conditioning or the playbook, or maybe because we were blocking more and he's not as strong of a blocker as we need him to be on the run plays. I don't know, but you can't be the best tight end in the country playing the third most snaps at tight end for your team and missing the fourth down crucial catch. So I'm gonna need him to step up and earn the praise that Buckeye Nation kind of has been regurgitating all offseason.
yeah, I think I'm happy that you did say the run game, like the fact that we did have tight ends possibly in the game to block for the run game. I love the fact that we went forward on fourth and goal, and we actually converted that. Think that that was the difference of the game was the fact that we converted our goal line attempt on fourth and goal, and they didn't. And so our offensive line has to get a lot of credit for that. Having said that, the running game obviously is going to have to improve. I mean, Ryan Day mentioned that there's definitely a lot of things that need to be improved, which this is where we are going to transition over into the national reaction of things. We understand we didn't set the world on fire, right? I mean, we did lose a lot of people to the something that we mentioned earlier, especially on the defensive side. On the offensive side of the ball, we definitely lost some veterans who are going to have some high productivity, I believe, in at the next level in the NFL. So having said that, we understand that we may not have necessarily looked like the number one team in the country coming into week one, but we also went against the voted on number one team in the country in all polls, and we came out on top. We were at home. We had an advantage in that we were at home, but we got the job done. It was a game that you just wanted to just go in there, win by any means necessary, and that's the case. In the running, and as far as the running game is concerned, I am actually really happy the production from C.J. Donaldson, transfer from West Virginia, and James Peoples has a ways to go. I think that he definitely is going to uh, gain some. What am I trying to say? Some confidence in these next two games against Grambling State and Ohio, and that's the main thing is gaining confidence in these next two games and not getting hurt. But what's some of your reaction from the national media? Reacting to our win, mind you, a win.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you know, I, so one, people certainly are doing the thing where they're saying this is the fact that Texas was overrated, right? They came in, they lost to the defending champion on the road, and it's like, oh, they must have been overrated. It's like, well, I mean, they really, first of all, they were underdogs, slight underdogs, but it's like Ohio State. I don't know. I think it makes sense that they would lose, and doesn't have to mean that they're not good. Now I get that Arch Manning didn't play very well, and so a lot of the hype around Texas, even though they have a really good team and their defense is better than their offense, but the hype around the team was about their quarterback. So because he played so poorly, even though pretty much everybody else played pretty well, I think their running back played well. I think the defense played well, but because he didn't play well, then people are like, okay, this team actually isn't very good. And so I think that's stupid. I think it's stupid if you are forecasting the SEC to believe that Texas still can't win that conference. Um, and I think it's also dumb to downplay what Ohio State did out there. I was listening to something this morning, I think it was, and on ESPN, and they were saying Well, no surprise, Pat Patricia, Matt Patricia has this defense, cooking, and I'm like, no surprise. Literally, everybody was saying how dumb of a hire it was, and how pointing to how he was so bad in Detroit as a head coach, and why would you? It's like he hasn't been in college in 20 years. All of these things, and now it's already in one game flipped to no surprise that Patricia had this defense, ready to go. So, a little bit of revisionist history, but I think what I'm worried about is actually I'm starting to hear some people say how close Texas was to winning this game, even though they didn't score until the very end of the game. But I'm starting to hear and actually, if you think about it, Arch Manning, people who are basically trying to say Arch Manning is not that bad, right? Which I agree with, but they're saying it in he was actually only one, a couple plays away from tying that game up in the fourth quarter. So, and then we'd be having a very different conversation if he did that. I'm like, yeah, we would, but he didn't. Also, he hadn't done anything for 3.5 quarters. So to act like, 5 minutes of good play, it means that Ohio State could have lost the game. That's the kind of thing that's important later, because at the end of the season, this game is going to be so far in the past, right? So when we're talking about playoff seeding and everything like that, and people start to say, well, Ohio State, are they, their best win is against Texas, but they barely won that game, or Ohio State's best win is Texas, but they were at home and a play away from, it's like that's the kind of thing that can start to happen. So I'm curious to see how this ages over time. Part of that's going to be how good Texas does the rest of the year. But that 14-7, which I think is relevant in the way that people are talking about the LSU game. People are saying LSU had the best win of the week. LSU won 17-7, right? They won by 10.
17-10.
17-10. Okay, so they won by 7. Okay, so I mean, that game right now is being talked about that's an impressive win versus Clemson, number 4 team. Ohio State doing that against Texas is not as impressive. That kind of narrative is something that is important to think about how that's going to translate in 10 weeks or so when it actually matters.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where we have to, I guess just go out there. For one, we have to go for Texas the rest of the way. We got to hope that they win the rest of their games for our resume, and then same thing. I mean, we just obviously have to do what we can do and just focus on us and win our games. So, so yes, congratulations. Yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
mention a couple quick snap count things I thought were pretty interesting in this game? I mentioned already the Max Clare. He only had 23 snaps. Will Kasmeric had 48. And so kind of just showing where we are with that. Wide receivers, we only had 3 wide receivers play. We have a good top 3, but Hartline pretty notorious for only playing his top guys. There's a lot of mention about our 4th and 5th receiver this year, but they didn't get it at all in this game. And yes, we know the line about why would he take you out if he's only taking out Carnell Tate if you can come in there and do better than Carnell Tate. So I get that, but it was just interesting to see, given offseason hype, how it translates to actual snaps. I mentioned Iggy played every snap, him and Matthews, but Devin Sanchez, freshman on the All-American freshman watch list, did play 11 snaps. And what I noticed was that those snaps were at the very end of the game. They were playing in their dime package. So they had 3 DBs on the field, but he was that guy. And so that was exciting to see that they trusted him in crunch time at the end of the game. I think he definitely almost got beat on one of those. He might have got beat on that one that Arch Manning hit on the left sideline, but he was in the game. And so that to me is exciting. Also, Arvo Reese played really well. Looked like a beast out there. That dude was huge. I was like, who is that guy out there? He's looked like a defensive end playing linebacker. He played 64 snaps. He played the most snaps at linebacker. Obviously, Sonny Styles got hurt a little bit when he almost intercepted that ball. So anyway, just a couple of interesting things, seeing some young guys get out there. And TJ Hicks also with 19 snaps, playing a lot in those must pass situations. And obviously that included the last play for Texas on offense, where he was able to put pressure almost sack Arch Manning to allow that ball to be thrown short and down to get a tackle. So just interesting play. See what players are kind of what the hype is translating to actually playing in this first big game.
Yeah. So great analysis from you, Phil, and great win for the Buckeyes. As we head into week 2, as we face the Grambling State Tigers, I would be remiss if I did not mention the rich HBCU football history of Grambling State, mentioning head coach Eddie Robinson, who is known as the winningest coach in college football history with 408 wins. He was the head coach of Grambling State for 55 years and is, like I said, known as the winningest coach in college football history, as his wins are recognized regardless of the fact that he was the coach of an FCS school. And so, as they head into this week,
Who's swag?
you know, we're not going to.
Shout out Dion.
Coach Prime. All right, Coach Prime. Um, we're not going to disrespect the Grambling State Tigers, but we are going to predict that score, though. And so I give you the honors, Phil. Go ahead. You can go first with predicting the score for week 2.
Yes, we as my co-host said, Justin Hugo, that we are honoring and respecting Grambling State and the tradition of HBCU football. That being said, Ohio State 52, Grambling 10. I got it being I think in that first half we'll put up a decent amount of points. I think there's some incentive for Ryan Day, not to prove to the nation whatever that our offense is not broken, but really just to give saying some freedom to actually throw the ball around in a real game. And so I think they'll be moving a lot in the first half, but not try to push it too much at the end. So I'm going 52-10 Ohio State over Grambling.
Okay. Yeah, I've got definitely the Buckeyes scoring plus 50. Give me 59-7. I think that it's really odd sometimes when I look at some of these games at opening drive by the FCS team. These past few, I guess, meetings that we've had with FCS teams, like we give them that first drive, and then after that, it's all Ohio State. I think that the number one goal in this game is to win, and the number two goal, but just as equal as winning, is not getting hurt. Do not want to get and on both sides of the ball. On both sides of the ball. Um, but yeah, I think to your point, Julian Sane is going to have a crazy stat line. I want to be looking at the running game, making sure that we can have great run blocking in this game, making sure that our running backs see have great vision and are able to pick up some first downs on short yardage situations, to keep drives going. So, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You
man.
think we're
You
gonna see
think
a
we're going to
difference
see a difference
in the
in
usage
the
of
usage?
Donaldson and Peoples? Last game, Donaldson played over double the snaps as Peoples. Do you think we'll see that again, or do you think this will be like his bounce back game from the coaches where they let him actually run more?
Yeah, I think that I would much rather see Peoples run more. Seeing that it seems like Donaldson is RB1, and I think that it is, yes, I would much rather see Peoples get more snaps because I want to be able to see where his skill set is at. We haven't seen him play a lot in his career
Mm-hmm.
so far, so I will definitely want to see him. And then also, if we can also get a third or fourth string running backs in the game for the fact of when it's in garbage time, love this for them to get some play as well. And also the same thing on the receivers. When you mentioned earlier that we only had 3 receivers play in this game against Texas, we've got a deep receiving core, I think. And so I think what Mylan Graham, I think he's the number one receiver I would like to see make some plays. And then second to that is actually someone who did play in the game against Texas, and that's Brandon Ennis. some of these games that where he's had some catches in his career, it would be great to see what he can do on a consistent basis. And that's one of the things that I'm actually most excited about this year is seeing his production heading into the season. So, yeah, great question. And we were not the only. We were the biggest game of the week, but we were not the only game of the week. And so, last week we talked about teams we were in and out on in the Big Ten. This week we're going to be talking about. It doesn't have to just be a team. It can be a player. It can be a coach. Um, it can be whatever. And what you're in and out on for so far coming out of week one uh, of the college football season. And so, team that I will say I can go first here. That in terms of who I'm in on are them LSU Tigers.
Oh,
I am in on the Tigers. I thought that it was really. I like the fact that they won their first game in forever. They won a week one game. Brian Kelly has his team fired up. In a week where SEC teams struggled, I'm not obviously a big component for the SEC, but I will say that they needed that win. They needed that win, and LSU brought it through for them. A team that hadn't won a week one in what 5 years, I think it is. So, given the fact now they do go against some pretty tough opponents, but at the end of the day, like you gotta, in the way they've lost some of these games, has been somewhat embarrassing. Um, and so you got to look at this as definitely a plus for the SEC to get a victory from one of their top teams against another top team from another conference in Clemson, where everybody was crowning Clemson. Clemson is at night, in their home stadium, and they only put up 10 points. So I'm not sure where that crown is now. I know they have a pretty easy schedule being in the ACC. I'm not going to give that the Civil War game though to them against South Carolina. I'm not. That's not a gimme at right now. At this point, but all in all, I'm in on LSU as they beat Clemson in week one.
boo all around. Boo, boo, boo. Can't believe there's been a lot of writing of LSU, I will say. In this past week, people saying they should be the number one team. Again, I don't see it. I'm in on John Mateer, big money Mateer, money line Mateer. Um, yeah, I'm all in on him. I saw some juke moves that I did not know he had in his bag. I really didn't. I mean, I knew that he was a prolific stat patter at Washington State, I believe, where he transferred from. I just didn't know. I hadn't seen him move like that, and so obviously they played weak opponent in week one. So not going to be the same thing when they play against that Michigan defense. But just seeing that he's pretty dynamic, I think is kind of exciting to see what that team could be this year. They have a strong defense, and he seems like a guy who can work, off platform well, especially if their offensive line isn't as great as it used to be. And so I'm in on him. Especially, I'm calling that shot before they play Michigan, saying I think he's going to have a good game, even against a defense that's very good.
Okay, all right. Now, who are we out on? I'm out on Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. I think that Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. It's just though, however, it is starting to seem like this Alabama job is not for him. I don't know what he would have done if he would have stayed at Washington, but I'm pretty sure life would have been a lot more comfortable for him had he stayed there. This is kind of starting to remind me of like when those coaches went to Michigan for those number of years after Lloyd Carr left, and how they were just losing games that they should have won, that some people feel like they should have won, and they just didn't have great seasons. They weren't living up to whatever standard they have up there. but he's definitely not living up to the standard that Alabama fans and the program has. Having Nick Saban, as your last head coach is it's obviously um, a tough act to follow. But right now, based on the way how they lost that game, I just got to say, first game of the year, um, I'm out on Kalen DeBoer.
Well, you know what it took for Michigan to finally win again? They had to cheat.
Yeah,
So the board can cheat because you talking about the coaches after Carr. Yeah, all of them failed, even Harbaugh until he started cheating. So
he
Caleb
started
DeBoer,
cheating. Yeah,
you know what to
yeah.
do. Connor Stallions is definitely available to do any podcast, documentary, or some advanced scouting if you need them. Okay, I am out on Bill Belichick. Oh my goodness. I watched that game on Monday night. I bet on that game Monday night. And the thing is, I bet on the under more than once, unfortunately.
What
Um,
was the under? What was the
oh,
over under?
I think I had it at like 55 or 54, 54 and a half, something like that.
Before
Which
I
I thought
saw.
was, matter of fact, I
Okay.
actually took an alt line under, like it was like probably like 56. I took like 54 because I'm like, listen, like UNC may not be great offensively, but Bill Belichick's gonna have what people were saying about like Matt Patricia. Oh well, no surprise, the defense was ready. I was thinking, no surprise, defense gonna be ready at UNC. Like they may not be able to pass it, but they're gonna it's gonna be like a low scoring game, just given the way that Belichick likes to play. Probably gonna run the ball a lot and focus on stopping them from scoring. And these boys at TCU, I know you didn't see it, but like they were scoring however they wanted to. And like every crossing route went for like 20 yards. Every time they had like third and long, it's like, oh, conversion. Like it was like they did whatever they wanted to on offense. And so yeah, I mean UNC's offense looked bad. They put in the backup Johnson at the end. He scored a touchdown. Great. Maybe he's gonna be their, a hope for them moving forward, but their defense was getting smoked, Swiss cheesed up. Like it was bad. So I'm out on Belichick because that's the one thing I thought Belichick's gonna have to adjust to this. Defensive game planning is the one thing you can't take away from him. And them boys at TCU made him look like Kerry Combs. They made him look terrible.
Well, I think it's hilarious the whole Bill Belichick experience in UNC at UNC and how it was a party going into this game. I mean, before the snap, you've got everybody wearing their Argyle Carolina Blues stuff. I mean, it was ESPN was there on the field. You had Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit calling the game.
Yeah, that
The
was
only, the
crazy.
only, the only game, solo game on a Monday night, only college football game happening on Monday, and just came out flat. Now the first drive
They
was
scored.
great.
That's the thing. They weren't
Yeah.
flat. They came out and they scored, and you should have seen like they were high fiving in the booth. MJ and all the other players. Lawrence
Michael
Taylor.
Jordan was
Yeah.
there.
Michael
uh,
Jordan,
and and
when the goat was in the box, high fiving, drinking heavily, I'm sure, smoking probably 3 cigars at a time, and it was like UNC is back, baby. And at that time, I put a little extra money on UNC to win the game. I was like, hey, it's going. So
dang.
yeah, it
Well,
was
but then the light show. I don't know when they did the light show. I think it might have been third into the fourth quarter. That's one of the things that they're doing at some of these college football games now, and uh, they had less than a full crowd. I'll say.
oh yeah. I don't blame anybody for leaving that game early because it was just clear UNC wasn't on the same level. Like it looked like a FCS, like a tough FCS team that's like, still able to make some plays, but not doesn't belong on the same field. That's how it looked, man. And that's not something that honestly that shouldn't be the case for UNC, period. UNC shouldn't be a team that can't play with TCU, especially with a coach that has, more Super Bowl rings you can fit on one hand. That's bad. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs. for setting the record straight. Now, UNC does go against Charlotte. Charlotte 49ers. They're coming to the Queen City. We will see what happens. Is that going to be an upset pick for one of us? We will find out next here on Pick Six. All right, and now it is time for Pick Six, our best bets of the week on the BIA podcast, where I pick three, Phil picks three, and that makes six. These are not any ordinary picks. We each pick a lock, where we pick a team to cover the spread. We have a toss up as well, which has to be a spread of about minus 3.5, and then the upset can be any game with at least against a 7 point favorite. And so they each have point totals. If you get the lock, you get 1 point. If you get the toss up, you get 1 point. And then if you are able to get your upset, you get 2 points. But if the only penalty for not having a correct pick is the lock, if your team does not cover spread, then it's -1. Bill, how was that?
That was, I give it 8 out of 10.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's take a look back at week one. I had Indiana over ODU minus 23.5. It did not hit. So I was -1 for me. My toss up hit LSU over Clemson, and then my upset. I mean, man, Florida State over Bama. That's the one game I just want to comment on. It was definitely one of those. It's a Gus bus. Looking back now, looking back on that game, it was because of Gus Malzahn. He's getting a lot of credit for that game, for winning that game, for the offensive play calling. But I mean, man, like I mentioned before, being out on Kalen DeBoer, disappointed in Alabama's effort there. But hey, I praise the Florida State Seminoles, the home crowd, crashing the field afterwards, and giving bringing the upset. So yeah, thank you FSU.
All right, week 2. What we got?
You're not gonna go over your picks?
I went 0 for 3, and it's very important to Justin that I make sure I have to share that with everybody that I went 0 for 3. We've already talked about all those games. I mean, the FSU game was one of mine. The LSU Clemson game. We already talked about these games, so I don't feel I need to go into it. And the Tennessee Syracuse game just wasn't a very good game from the jump. Tennessee was able to score on defense at least once, and kind of just make that game out of reach for the majority of it. So, bad week of picks, and I'm having to do this talk of shame because Justin gets a lot of enjoyment out of it. So, you know what? The thing about this is that things will turn. Joy cometh in the morning. So let's get to the week 2.
Just to clear the record, we always talk about
we sometimes we briefly touch on it. Other times we do a deep dive. Today we did the deep dive. So, like I said, on to Cincinnati.
I do want to say I was disappointed that the Syracuse Tennessee game wasn't an actual game. I was actually looking forward to that being a neutral site, that Syracuse might be able to make that a game, but it is what it is. SEC teams in Atlanta are not neutral site games, and I'll just leave that there. So let's go ahead and move on to week 2.
Finally.
I will go first here. I'm going to start out with the lock. Give me Arizona State over Mississippi State -6.5.
Damn, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a interesting line.
All of these are interesting lines.
I think Arizona State should be able to cover that pretty easily. I think Mississippi State won last week, and so that's kind of, I think, inflating the odds they stay in the game. Okay, for my lock, I'm going to go with actually a close game. I'm going to go with Illinois -3 over Duke. They're on the road here. There's a lot of hype being given to Duke in their offense this year, but I just think that Illinois is trying to they're aspiring to be in that second tier of the Big Ten. That's not where Duke is. Duke is below that. And so, like, if you're going to try to be the fourth best team, if you're going to try to be better than Michigan this year, Duke has to be a game that you come out and handle easily. So, if they are who they say they are, they should be able to beat Duke by more than 3 points.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Um, I'm not mad at that.
Okay. For ooh, for my upset, I am going to go with a team that I bet on a couple times last year and let me down a lot last year. But I love putting it into our document. Give me rock chalk, Jayhawk. And this border war, great rivalry. I think it was in Justin's maybe top 5 rivalries of college football for this upcoming year, and that's Kansas, Missouri. Both teams undefeated so far. Kansas has looked better than they looked last year, just in terms of being able to put up a lot of points on offense. This is the kind of game they lost last year consistently, so we'll see if they can get it done. They're 6.5, 7-point underdog. I got them winning outright.
Now, wait a minute now. So, hold on. The play is on the further review. 6.5. I know that they have to be 7. I mean, am I right about that? I'm giving it
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, Justin. Can I get the half point so that I can
I
hit?
will give that to you. I just want to make sure to clarify for our audience. Um, I that was actually a game I was going to ask for,
Oh,
but
so made a big deal out of the 6.5, but you wanted 6.5 too. Okay, all right.
yeah, I know. Like I said, it's not just a given for 6.5 to be um, your pick. It's something that we both have to.
Yes, I think that especially taking the 6.5 underdog on the road, I think is a kind of a you know no brainer. But thank you for
I mean,
graciousness and
it's
your
on the road.
mercy. It endures forever. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. What's your upset?
Well, I am gonna have to pick a new upset pick here, and I'm gonna go ahead and go with.
They say if you stay ready, you never have to get ready.
You're right. That is true. That is true. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and take. Thinking between I'm between two games here. Um, and
Pick one of them.
I'm a. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go ahead and take the. I can't find another game that's gonna make sense, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with Kentucky over Ole Miss.
Play the Boo Birds on your soundbar. You have a gross. Well, as you're finding that the appropriate sound, I also that obviously, well, not obviously, for those who don't know, Kentucky did beat Ole Miss last year. End of the season is what kept Ole Miss out of the playoffs last year. So certainly, a mediocre Kentucky team can beat Ole Miss. It's just the fact that because they beat them last year, it feels like Ole Miss will be like wanting revenge. But yeah, who knows? Great pick.
um, and so my toss up, I am going to go with. It's almost like a tradition at this point. I feel like these past few years, I've definitely gone with picking a team in this game. Last year, I think I chose the same team, and I'm picking them this year. Iowa State. Give me Iowa State in the Cyhawk over Iowa.
Good pick in Ames. Even though Iowa's been able to win in Ames pretty consistently, but that offense did not look different in week one for Iowa. So I'm not mad at that pick at all. I'm not going to go on the other side of that. I'm staying away from the other side of games with you after last week's debacle with Alabama. So yeah, you're safe from me there. I am going to. Dang, I lost my. Oh, I know where I'm going. I'm going my toss up. I'm going to go with another underdog. You know, got to swing big to hit big. Give me Baylor. Give me Baylor. They're going into the Dallas area playing SMU. Um, and they're going to lead them saying SMH when Baylor comes through and gets the dub. Right now, they're underdogs. It's a 2-point spread. But I think Baylor, if you watch that game last week between Baylor and Auburn, Auburn won the game. But Baylor was doing some really good stuff, especially passing the ball. Like their offense was moving. They just couldn't stop the run and the quarterback run specifically. Now, which that might be an issue against SMU. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like Bo Nix had like a amazing performance that I don't see just being replicated, week to week. So I think Baylor has what it takes to be able to get this upset on the road.
Yeah. I didn't speak on my give a reason for the Iowa State over Iowa, but I think to your point, Iowa didn't show a lot um, of improvement on the offensive side of the ball last week. I hope that that's not because they were trying to hide stuff for this game, but I guess we're gonna find out. And I do like your Baylor pick, in state game in the state of Texas. It should be interesting to see if Baylor fans travel for that game against SMU. So, as a recap, I can go ahead and start. For my lock, I am taking Arizona State minus 6.5 over Mississippi State. For my toss up, I'm taking Iowa State in the Cyhawk over Iowa. And then for my upset, I am taking Kentucky over Ole Miss in Kroger Stadium. Big checkout.
All right, for my lock, I've got Illinois beating Duke and covering their 3-point spread. For my toss up, I've got Baylor coming in and handing SMU their first loss of the season. And I've got Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, defeating Mizzou in the border war.
Awesome. So, should be interesting week 2 slate. And, obviously, we're looking forward to a win against Grambling State. And hopefully, man, let's just go for each other here this next week for Pick 6. Go for your teams, you go for my teams, Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can go 6 for 6.
6 for 6, yes.
Well, I'm Justin. That's Phil. This was week 2 of the BIA pod for our 3rd season here. Also, just check out our TikTok at BIA.pod. That's BIA.pod.